Hello, welcome to another episode of Cavell Cloud Conversations. Once again with me, Finbarr Begley, research analyst, and Patrick Watson, head of research at Cavell.
Hello, everyone.
We do industry-focused, communications industry-focused research, looking at UCaaS and CCaaS and loads of other CASs and anyway, we do a lot of research work on the communications industry, and we talk about cloud on this podcast. Patrick, how are we doing?
Yeah, very, very well, thanks. Thanks, Finbarr. It's been a little while since we did the podcast, partly because of the topic today, because we were all away, pretty much the entire Cavell team, in Washington, D.C. for our Cavell Summit North America. So I think we were going to give some highlights of the event during this pod.
Yes. And while you can bring microphones with you to other countries, for some reason we don't always manage it because we've got planes to catch. But that is okay. So, we are here to talk about Cavell Summit North America. What is Cavell Summit North America? It is our annual North American event where we get a couple of hundred C-level decision makers into a room to talk about the latest in business communications, the latest in contact centers. These are people who are building and selling these technologies, talking about what's happening to them and their business on the front lines, networking and learning with their peers. It's a fantastic event. This year we were in Washington, only 2 blocks from the White House, and it was a phenomenal event. The rooms were packed. We had the CEOs of some great companies. And we had a really good time. And we talked about a lot of things. Patrick, what did we talk about?
We talked about absolutely loads of stuff. So we actually, for anyone who's interested, you can get highlights and summaries on the Cavell website if you head to cavell.com, and there's a number of write-ups up there. We did some AI notes with our recording partner AI4ia. And they really interestingly, they did a word cloud after the event of the things that were said most on stage. And actually, it was AI that was the biggest sort of sentiment in the word cloud. So we did a lot of focus for the providers that were there about how can you monetize AI? How can you commercialize AI? Because one of my questions on one of my panels was, are the people that are going to make money out of AI just the really big infrastructure providers? Is it just Microsoft? Is it just Google? Is it just, OpenAI? Is it just Amazon that are going to make money? But actually, we had some really interesting use cases of how you can monetize AI, either professional or managed services, architecture services. So AI was a really big topic, as well as all those other communication areas that you mentioned, Finbarr, the usual sort of UCaaS, CCaaS market trends. AI was a recurring theme throughout the event.
Well, it's interesting that you draw attention to that because, just to provide context as to why people are thinking about that, there is a general worry or thought in the industry that as we start to use more AI services, they become easier to deploy. Ultimately, the revenue just goes straight to the companies who are actually selling the compute power, right? So, you can sell all the cool AI stuff you want, but you plug it in for your client, and then your client pays for the rest of their existence that huge compute fee to Azure rather than to you as a service provider, right?
Yeah.
And the point is that to deliver that service with consistency and quality, a lot of people in the room, and I think we ourselves believe that you do need someone to sit between you and a large hyperscaler to build, to run, to operate, understand, update, manage, pick any sort of active verb you can think of that can be done to a service. And there's probably a service provider that's needed to do that because they can keep up to date with skills and all the other things that you need to do to keep these things running.
Yeah, and there was a really interesting point that a lot of the service providers that we had there, and we had some of the largest telcos in the US down to tier 1 and tier 2 service providers and regional ILECs and whoever that might be. Ultimately, all of this AI revolution, evolution is circulates along the data, and that data has to be carried somewhere on a network. And a lot of these service providers actually own aspects of these networks and provision it for customers. So even at the sort of most rudimentary plumbing level, the network requirements for this, boom in data usage and boom in analytics and intelligence uses are going to require, network assets. So something, Finbarr, that you used to do, that used to be one of your main focus areas of research, is coming back in increasing importance in terms of that network management piece.
Yeah, to the extent that we're even talking about edge computing as a solution to not have to send all that data over the network. How close can you get the AI to a customer so that they don't have to transfer the data over the network, just because the data needs of these solutions are so huge that to pay for the bandwidth you need to run them is a challenge in and of itself. And I think that's a really interesting point, because it kind of just illustrates that the reality of deploying these technologies from the coalface, from the industry standpoint, is drastically different to the marketing message that is being put out by the companies building the cutting edge technology. So we've got this marketing message. I'm not criticizing any of the vendors for this, right? Because they need to be talking about the shiniest thing that they're building. They need to be talking about how they're better than their competition, and they're building more interesting stuff and innovating, and where all that R&D spend is going, and how they're beating the startups who are really agile. They need to be talking about what they're doing. But that's their message. Isn't it great how great this AI is? And then we've got the reality of the message from people actually deploying the stuff, which is, that's a really good solution, but my customer's not ready for it. They're about 6 months away of all of this cloud migration data work before we can actually deploy that. Those guys are almost ready for it, but they can't justify the ROI. There's loads of little patchworks of, nuance where the service providers are stepping in and saying, yeah, but you're not ready. You can't do it yet. Lots of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point. And I mean, we've done, Finbarr, you lead all of our enterprise research. Every year we survey tens of thousands of businesses. A lot of these businesses are using AI in its sort of most simplistic function. There aren't, a lot of it is still within, you tell me all the time in your work in the customer experience field, it's small proof of concepts, it's trials that are going ahead, people are testing the water. And one of the other key topics that we always go through, and we went through in the North American Summit, was, not everyone is in the cloud yet. Even if you look at really developed markets like the US, it's only roughly 60% of users are even using a cloud solution for their telephony. So you're going to really struggle to leverage AI if you're not leveraging the cloud. So I think there's multiple stages in this journey, and I think you're right, Finbarr. At every different stage there is an opportunity for communications providers, whether you're a service provider, a telco, or a small managed service provider, or a channel organization selling communications technology, to add some value. So whether that's in network management that we talked about, whether that's in connectivity services, whether that's in architecture and deployment. But I think the really interesting thing was something that you and I have spoken about a lot, is understanding the sort of art of the possible. A lot, we and probably anyone who's listening to this podcast, is in this industry. You hear about these use cases all the time. You hear about real-time translation, or you hear about, intelligent routing in the contact center. A lot of businesses, when I speak to my friends who run their normal businesses, that's not their everyday focus, isn't the sort of tech enabling this. So just understanding the art of the possible, and the opportunity for service providers to explain to businesses, actually, here is a tangible use case where you'll be able to measure ROI, and it will improve, your business in a really straightforward, simple use case. And that was one of the main things that came out of a few of the sessions that I was involved in, was that actually, showing a simple use case with a clear ROI is the best way to sort of demonstrate value in this.
And one thing that came out of my CX panels, because obviously we were talking about AI as well, and I was running a whole CX summit in the afternoon where we got Five9 and NICE, and we got Zoom on the table talking about CX, as well as service providers deploying it, was, also the realization that we are one AI solution out of 50 that these companies are being pitched in every part of their business.
Yeah,
and
very good point.
The art of the possible extending not only to being able to articulate what your technology can do, but also being able to articulate the ROI of the technology and why you're the solution that they should prioritize first. Because, I've spoken to companies, and one of the things we talked about during the event, where he's like, okay, I have 50 AI projects on the table. This is a mid-sized company, maybe 1,000 employees. He's like, I have 50 AI things that I could do on the table. We've sat down and we've categorized those 50 into 15 that are technologically possible today, right?
Yeah.
35 of them aren't technologically possible in a simple way, but 15 of them are. I then have to take those 15 across all my different technology stacks, my data center, my comms, my CX, my, day-to-day, all of those kind of things. And I have to decide which I'm going to do, because I reckon I can do 2 to 3 a year, because of how transformative each of them is in terms of processes, technology, spend, right?
User education, absolutely,
all of those things. And I can't just deploy 15 and then say to my users, go have fun, because they're just going to look at me like, I don't know what my job is anymore, right? So in that context, it's not just about saying, here's the art of the possible. It's about communicating that, and then also communicating how much it's going to save them, how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, and where do you prioritize? Absolutely, yeah. Really
winning the mind share battle at the company to get your project deployed ahead of the other 10 transformation projects that they could be doing this year, right? And if you don't win that battle, then your project is going to be what? 10th, 11th, 12th? Maybe we'll do it in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting point about just understanding the art of the possible as well. And the whole event just really crammed full of really interesting stuff like that. We did a whole talk about agent experience and how contact center agents are doing those things. I say I was interviewed live on stage by Patrick kind of like a live podcast, but we didn't record it. So I feel like the audience is now lacking some of that live podcast energy that we could have brought. But
well, maybe we should give them a snippet of it, and also we should plug that research, because that research we're going to make available, for free.
So there will be a webinar on the 30th of October. Attend that webinar. You can download the research. It will come out available for free as well a bit after that. But if you're chomping at the bit to understand what North American contact center agents think about the deployment of AI in their contact centers and many other interesting facts, then you should come to that webinar, and you will get to hear me, the person you already love listening to, talking for... I know, Patrick won't be there, which is so sad, but
I didn't even know. How am I not the one... Yeah, because on stage I got to basically interview Finbarr about the agent research, even though I was there the entire time.
Well, I mean, come to the webinar. We'll just repeat our double act. But yeah, so there's going to be an in-depth webinar going through the research, and then, of course, you can get a copy of the research to take away with you. But it's just really fascinating. We won't spoil all the details, but agents report across the board that their workloads are increasing, the task complexity they have to handle is increasing. They're reporting that they're scared about the impact of AI on their jobs, but they're optimistic about how it's helping them do their work. It's a real mixed tapestry of emotions and viewpoints on the impact of these technologies on their work. What other...
Well, it was really, I think the really important reason that we commissioned that research and you ran it, and there were some really interesting findings, is that we have the market sizing research of how many contact center agents there are in any market, how many telephony users there are, how many contact center agents. Then we had what the industry's doing, what the contact center operators are doing, because Finbarr, you've been surveying them, for the past 3 years. And then we should really get an idea of what the agents who are working in these contact centers are thinking. So it was to complete our knowledge sort of picture and plug any knowledge gaps from the Cavell side about what agents think about, deploying AI technology, what they think about their workload. So it was a really I got to fully interview Finbarr on stage about that. But so that was just, as I said, so we've touched on sort of two to AI, the agent research. You talked about some of the CX, but the event covered. Obviously, we were just running from our different panels to keynotes to different. Sessions.
What did they miss? They missed an Operator Connect forum. They missed a Zoom phone enablement forum.
Yeah, there was a focus. We did focus on vertical markets. We did how you approach go-to-market in different regions around the world.
The CEO of Destiny said why cloud communications is dead.
Yeah, went for a classically quiet title. Yeah, non-controversial.
Yeah, just before lunch, no one was shocked, and everyone was shocked, and there was lots of crying in the streets as the whole business disappeared. So, I mean,
loads of topics.
We can only cover it in so much detail. However, as Patrick has mentioned, there is an AI-powered transcription summary of the event. We will share it alongside this podcast. If you're interested, you can have a look at that. You'll get a general gist of what's going on. Of course, if you want to get involved in that kind of event yourself, our next event is the Cavell Enable event, focused on enabling phone into collaboration platforms, which is on, correct me, Patrick, the 4th of December?
Cavell Enable this year.
Or is it the 3rd of December?
I think it's the 3rd.
Which will be in London.
It's the 2nd of December.
So
we're both incorrect.
Anyway, so on the 2nd of December, which is what I said originally the entire time, you can join us in London to hear from industry leaders on phone enablement and other broader telecoms topics, as we'll always mix in a few more interesting ones. And of course, network with those companies and learn what's happening in the telecom space. After that, you can come back to us at, I think, a date to be determined in March, when we will be having our Cavell Summit Europe, which will be happening again in London, which will see about 300 or 400, let's say 400, see about 400 companies or people coming along to hear the latest that's happening in the European UCaaS, CCaaS and communications market. So plenty of opportunities to engage with Cavell. And of course, if you have any questions about what was said at the North American event or any other events coming up or any research that's been discussed, or if you just want to tell us that the podcast is great and we're doing a really good job, you
that's the
can
only
do
type
that.
of feedback that we want as well. To be
exactly.
completely frank.
Reach out to us on LinkedIn, message the Cavell account on LinkedIn. Anyway, really, you want to get in touch, you can email me directly at I Love the Cavell Podcast. No. I'm joking. And anyway, let us know if you have any topics or you'd like to come on the podcast, do that too. And we will speak to you all very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.